Hey, fitness fans, welcome back. This is Eric with the Future of Fitness podcast and the Fitness Marketing Alliance. This is episode number 18. So I talked to Sean Murphy, and Sean owns Boost Lacrosse, which is out in Hanover, Massachusetts. And it's a great episode because we talk about going wide net to sports specific and how you really carve out a niche with something that you're truly passionate about and go all in for it. So Sean, I met him in San Francisco. We were both training in the same circles. He opened a gym in Sausalito and then decided, which was a CrossFit gym, then he decided to eventually move out to Hanover and then go with his passion, which is lacrosse. And he's developing quite a business out there. And there's a lot of little lessons on how to get started if that's something that you want to do, because we're all about going in and really carving out your niche and figuring what that is and owning it 100%. So episode number 18, and it is brought to you by The Machine Fit Pro Edition. So it's a big day. Finally, full stack digital marketing agency service is available to the everyday fitness professional. So you're probably asking, what is The Machine? What does that mean? The Machine is a periodized marketing system, and it's based on decades of fitness industry experience and predictive analytics. So it's built to deliver ROI within 90 days, but it's so much more. So after the 13-month program, the goal is that every client of The Machine will have an automated and evergreen marketing system that choreographs all the aspects of digital and traditional marketing. So we're talking email funnels, pay-per-click advertising, which is Facebook and Google AdWords, search engine optimization, content marketing, social media, co-branding, and so much more. So get off the cycles of crash diet marketing that is just incredibly too prevalent in the industry today, and learn how to automate your marketing and lead generation the right way. The end goal is what you really want, right? Entrepreneurial freedom. So if you're interested in this, please go to fitnessmarketingalliance.com and book your consultation, and we will get in touch with you right away, and we'll see if it's the right fit. So now, on to the show, episode number 18 with Sean Murphy of Boost Lacrosse. Hey everybody, this is Eric with the Fitness Marketing Alliance and the Future of Fitness podcast. And today I have the pleasure of staying with Sean Murphy. He is the CEO and owner of Boost Lacrosse. Sean, thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So I've actually known you for a while. I think we first crossed paths about 8 years ago when you were opening your first facility, which was a CrossFit gym.
Yep.
Give me an update. Kind of tell us the story of how you got into fitness, and then how you specifically took the dive into Boost Lacrosse.
I found, like a lot of people, I found CrossFit totally randomly out of college. Coached at a local facility where I was in San Francisco for a while, San Francisco CrossFit. I think that's where we crossed paths for a little bit there. And then I opened up my first gym in 2009 in Sausalito, which was just north of the city. Then opened up another facility a little bit further north, a second CrossFit gym. I opened those 2009, ran them until about 2014, and sold them both. And now I'm up in the Boston area and have recently opened up Boost Lacrosse. So it's been about 6 months. So opened this up, and we've been doing business for about 6 months. So we've had it open for about 7.5 or so.
Okay. So you own two. So you own CrossFit Sausalito.
CrossFit Sausalito, and then West Bay CrossFit San Rafael.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. I didn't know you owned two.
Yeah. The second one, the life was a little brief there. Partnered with somebody, didn't go so well, but yeah, I had that one for about almost 2 years.
Okay. Yeah, we could probably record a whole episode just on selling gyms and everything.
Oh yeah. That was a crazy route. Yeah.
Yeah, that is woo. All right. So tell me, how did you make, and I really, we were talking before this, I really like to focus on, servicing a niche or a niche. I don't know. I'm going to say that 4 different ways. How you really dove into how you decided to make the switch to go specifically just to lacrosse, and how you made that transition.
Yeah. So, I had played lacrosse. I think I started in first grade growing up, loved the sport, played in college, and saw the growth while I was in San Francisco, saw the growth out there of how big it was becoming. And while I still owned the CrossFit Sausalito gym, I started training a bunch of the local high school kids there. And it was, it wasn't specifically CrossFit training. It was a little bit different, more geared towards, the actual sport, adding in a lot of lateral movement, speed work, and agility stuff that you don't typically get with CrossFit. But I realized that, not only is it the fastest growing sport in the country at the time, but there's really not a lot of gyms. Excuse me. There's not a lot of gyms that are focusing specifically on that sport, and it could definitely be much better served than it had been, because a lot of coaches, and I'm sure you experienced this growing up, a lot of high school coaches will take like the football programming and just add that to anybody's sport, which in reality, especially now as these sports are getting more competitive for kids to play in college or even beyond that, you have to really specifically address what's going on in that sport, or water polo like you played or whatever it is. So, so I realized that, it's the fastest growing sport in the country. I was kind of done with the CrossFit world. Excuse me. We'll keep editing those out.
Yeah, no problem.
And I was done with the CrossFit world, and where I moved in Boston, the South Shore of Boston, it's an enormous sport here. And there's a lot of kids that want to play at that next level, at the D1, D3 level. And focusing strictly on that niche, there's enough business to, make that happen and do it.
Yeah. I mean, I told you before, I went to school in Boston. I was coming from the West Coast. I was so surprised at how big lacrosse was. I think if at that time it was like lacrosse was the East Coast version of water polo. Like water polo is really big in California, right? And then you go out east and play it like I did, and people are like, what? How do you get
it's crazy.
Swim? That's always the question. So how did you talk to me about like the starting point? Like how did you start to build that business? Did you were coaching a lacrosse team? Is there anything that you did creatively to kind of market the business when you're getting started?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time when I started coaching those kids, when we were in Marin and at the Sausalito gym, Instagram had kind of just come into the market.
Okay.
And I tried to be at least pretty on top of the social media stuff. I've been following that guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, which I'm sure you know, for years, and, read all of his books. So I always try to stay on top of that, because clearly that was where a lot of the business was going. So that was one thing I hopped on right away, got the Boost Lacrosse Instagram account going from day one. And it's funny to look back now, there's posts from back then of kids doing workouts. But that was, I think, a huge part to at least getting the name out there. At the time, I had no idea I would eventually end up in Boston and open specifically a lacrosse gym. But that at least got the ball rolling a little bit. And then there were guys, and I remember really digging deep into this with Carl Powley. I don't know if you remember him.
Yep. Sure.
Who runs Gymnastics or Gymnastics Watt at the time, which is now, I don't even remember what he calls it now. But anyways, I remember diving into him, or at least his brain, and getting some knowledge from him, because that was basically what he did with his business. Was he just focused on the niche of gymnastics in the CrossFit world, and just kept trucking along, videos, content, social media, and eventually became a huge business for him. So, that's kind of how it all began.
Oh, that's great. Do you target? Do you speak to the parents, or do you speak to the athletes?
The athletes, mainly because the majority of our business is high school and college kids, and some 7th and 8th graders. So we really target those kids, because I know once I convince those kids to come in here, they're going to convince their parents. And at the age of the parents, so if I'm looking at a high school kid, their parent might be in their 40s, maybe 50s. Maybe they're just getting on Instagram, but they're not going to be looking for us. They're more the targeted audience on Facebook. When we get on Facebook, we'll go after the parents. Instagram is all about the kids. Awesome.
Yeah. So what you're essentially translating is that one of the things we preach is the fundamentals is know your audience, know who they are, and know where they are.
Right.
So speak to them on the right platforms. How is your business structured, Sean? How is it? Classes? Is it private training? Is it a mixture? How do you do it?
It's a mixture. A majority of it is classes. So the morning, we still of course have adults that come in here. We have adult classes in the morning usually.
Okay.
And then the afternoon, once school's over, that's when we have the high school kids. We have the 5th or 8th graders come, and then we have, the little bobbleheads that we call them, the 1st graders come in for a little babysitting hour. yeah, it's all class-based. We'll do one-on-ones. The way I set the gym up, that we almost have like a quarter of a field in the back where it's all turfed out. So we can actually do one-on-ones and work on skill, like not just the strength conditioning aspect of it, but also the skill of the sport. And that's where most of our one-on-ones are, is just focusing on skill work. But the strength conditioning part's all in classes.
Great. How do you, coming from the general population of CrossFit training, right, and focusing on Gen Pop and kind of whatever your target client was at that time, to working in a niche, how has that personally changed your life, right?
Yeah.
As far as the focus or your enjoyment of the process, and then what do you see the business advantages of it being?
Yeah, I think personally, I've loved diving back into the lacrosse world again. I've been out for, I stopped playing 2004. So I'd been out for a good 10 years or so. I'd watch the games when they're on TV on Memorial Day weekend, but other than that, I hadn't played. I hadn't really picked up a stick. So it was fun to get back into that. I'm playing again in an old man's league locally. So it's like, it's kind of brought me back into it all. But the adventure, with the client, the quote unquote adventure with them is totally different. With adults, it's typically very, very much the same. It's, digging into nutrition, figuring out what the goals are. How can we improve your everyday life, with your kids or whatever you want to do on the weekends. But, with the kids, it's really the path to college for most of them, which is, okay, do you want to play in college? All right, what do we need to do to get you there? And there's a lot more steps to it. There's way more elements to it where, when you're working with a specific sport, because you can now bring in the skill aspect of the sport, not just the strength conditioning. So it's a little more complicated, but it's fun because you get to really have a huge impact on their future and their life.
Yeah. What, I know you use social media, you use Instagram, you use Facebook. Do you have any other, some creative ways that you've used to market your business, whether it be, just, simply being seen at games, to, I don't know, any kinds of email marketing or paid advertising?
No. So to be honest with you, I haven't done any paid advertising. I did an experiment with Facebook ads initially to target those parents. And I think they're just so trained at this point to totally ignore the ads that we didn't get anything out of them. So I stopped doing that. Word of mouth has been huge. It's always been huge. But then on kind of the ground level of things, every kid that signs up gets a t-shirt. Initially, when I opened up, I was literally just handing t-shirts out to anybody that visited, and they think it's like, oh, thank you so much for a shirt. But for me, it's like, wear it everywhere you go. So I did that. That was huge. I saw kids wearing the shirts all over the place. And of course I had to make sure they were nice enough where they'd wear them, so they weren't cheap shirts.
Yep.
But I think, putting money towards getting like $7 shirts versus $4 shirts, that paid off way more than it would have if I kept trying to pay for Facebook ads or that type of thing. But that was big. I basically initially when I opened up, I got all the guys that work in the local lacrosse shops. I just gave them free memberships in return for them to just talk about it with all the kids that came in the stores. That was huge. That kind of got the word out. So it was little things like that, but it's still pretty early. It's 6 months in, but at this point now we're kind of snowballing to the degree of it's a lot of word of mouth. You get some high school girls in here and then all of a sudden the next week their whole group is in. So it's really word of mouth, but initially it was a lot of just, t-shirts, stickers, and we made those little wristbands that Live Strong initially came out with back in the day. Kids love wearing those. So those are all over town now. So little things like that.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a huge advantage of doing something, in a niche market, right?
Yeah.
Word of mouth is, the circles are so small and so dense that the word gets out so quickly. And if we're listening, if you haven't figured it out, I'm a big fan of carving out a niche or going to niche and serving it really well. Cause I think it's really important because you can always expand out from there, right?
That's exactly right.
You can always do that. Yeah.
And we started have somewhat expanded. Like now we have a hockey team that comes in here because there's a bunch of lacrosse guys that play hockey.
Right.
So now those guys are getting in, and now, I went and found a free hockey goal for the back just in case we need it. But Yeah, it's funny, like when you try to grow it organically versus, trying to just get in front of people on Facebook or whatever it is. When it grows organically, it takes a little bit longer, so I lose more hair, but it actually brings in, I believe it brings in a much more qualified client when it grows organically.
Right.
People that'll actually stick. So it's worked so far. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that's huge. And I think, you also have the advantage now of being new and being, something that's unique.
Oh, I lost you there.
Oh.
Oh, there you are. So say that again.
Yeah, I think that's the big part of being something new, and is that, okay, for example, when we first started CrossFit, because we've both been in for a long time, advertising wasn't necessary. Marketing wasn't necessary. It was, the early adopters were all over it and then telling all their friends about it. And at some point, I think a lot of gyms had a cap, and now it's completely different. But it seems like you found that fun space and time, right, where you can grow organically, and word of mouth is really effective.
Yeah, and again, like focusing on the niche, especially in the lacrosse world, it's a lot like soccer in the sense that like there's club organizations, and during the summers when a lot of these big tournaments and showcases and camps happen. So it's very, very easy to really target what you need to be doing and who you need to be going after, because it's all in one consolidated group. So it's pretty easy once you get to that niche.
How do you like it better? Do you like it better doing the niche than the general population?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, on a business level, for sure. Because now, with CrossFit, you're almost chasing everybody and anybody.
Right.
Even though in the back of your head, that only a specific person is going to do this. It's basically any adult is your market, because you never know who's going to adopt that program. But yeah, I like it more. It's much more simplified. And you can almost go over the top with it in the sense of, you're constantly getting on Instagram or whatever and talking about lacrosse and digging into different lacrosse stuff. So, in a business sense, it's much easier.
Cool. That's great. Out of curiosity, what's your philosophy on athletes and sport specification? At what ages do you believe that should happen? Or what's your personal, because that's a hot topic right now, right?
Yeah. I don't think it should happen until you get to college, to be honest with you. Whether or not people, even getting into college, like I played 2 sports in college. I didn't want to give up one and to play the other. So, I think it's very important as an athlete for these kids to learn that playing other sports is actually going to help you become a better athlete, which will then help you in your own sport. But we're seeing kids now that come in, they're in 6th grade, that have given up every other sport and they're just focusing on lacrosse. And I don't know if that's coming from the kid or it's coming from the club coaches or it's coming from the parents, but these kids need to learn that it's less about you being the best lacrosse player that you can. It's more about you being the best athlete that you can, and then being the best athlete that you can will then make you a better lacrosse player. So I think they should be playing multiple sports until they commit to that college program, if they do. But it's a whole different world now than when you and I grew up. It's very competitive. Yeah,
it is. I mean, scholarships, especially on the men's side now, are very, very competitive. Where do you see the sport of lacrosse going in like the next 10 years? Like at what level do you think it'll be at? Will it be like hockey? Will it be bigger than hockey in the United States, or where do you see it going?
I think it'll be bigger than hockey. I think it might almost be bigger than hockey. A majority of the hockey talent like comes out of this area in New England, and then I think it's Minnesota, or like the 2 big, or Michigan, something like that. It's the 2 big hockey areas. I think it'll be bigger than hockey. I think it's youth-wise, it's in 10 years, it'll probably be on par with soccer. I think it's just almost all the kids, at least around here now, are playing lacrosse. Almost nobody's playing baseball anymore. But you can see it with the college growth is incredible. Like Utah just added their program, and I think they're going to be D1 by 2018. So a lot of these schools that are out west that have historically never even thought about lacrosse, they at least, most of them have a women's program now and are all in talks to add men's programs. So, once those are added, like you see schools like USC, and Cal and Oregon, which all have club teams now, but they're not actual Division I teams. I think once they all go Division I, that'll just help grow the sport because you have that many more schools offering scholarships and, opportunities for kids to play. So, 10 years from now, the only thing we need to figure out is the pro level. But, it's growing like crazy. It's nuts.
Yeah, before I left Santa Barbara, it was getting very popular. I mean, the leagues, I had a couple parents, and we did a little bit of training with their kids, but it was, they said, the leagues were packed, just absolutely packed in California.
Well, the thing with California too, those kids can play year round.
Yeah.
So a lot of the talent now that is coming out of California, people are shocked because they're like, whoa, but these kids can literally play year round versus New England where, once that snow hits, you're done. So
let's talk about your experience in the sport of lacrosse because I was good friends at Boston College with a lot of the lacrosse team. One of them was a goalie, and I thought that had to be one of the craziest positions to do in sports. I mean, that ball. How fast is this ball going?
Nowadays can be anywhere from 90 to 105 typically on average miles per hour. It's crazy.
And do they get pads? The goalies? I don't think they get pads, right?
So the joke with goalies now is they're all certifiably crazy. To be able to stand in the net, so they wear a helmet. They have a chest protector that's literally it's like a thick sweatshirt, a cup, gloves, and their stick, and that's it. So their legs are wide open, their sides, their arms wide open. They have a little neck guard off the helmet, but that's it. So they're all crazy.
Yeah. I mean, most sports I've noticed too, that goalies tend to be one of a kind, right? They are just a little, they just think a little bit differently than everybody else.
They're a little off. Yeah.
Just a little off. Great guys or girls. Yeah. So tell me, what are the physical demands of the sport? I've never played. It looks like a ton of fun, but it looks like something you kind of have to pick up early because of the skills with the the stick and all that.
Yeah, I mean it's athletically or I guess in just the sense of running and agility wise and speed, it's very similar to I guess it's almost like a combination of taking soccer and football and hockey just in the sense of the intensity of it, but it's lacrosse is all based on short sprints, so bursts of speed with a guaranteed rest, a lot like hockey. They don't have shifts like you would on in a hockey game, or as many shifts as you would, but it's all short bursts of sprints. You have to be very agile. Size honestly doesn't really matter in this sport. So unlike football where all the guys are enormous, you can be a tiny guy. We've seen some of the best players have been, in the 5'6" range. And they don't need to be big and bulky. The faster and quicker you are, the better you're going to be.
So getting back to your business, Sean, are there any key metrics that you track in your business? And possibly on the flip side of that, are there any metrics that you feel that you should be tracking that you're not?
Oh, man, there's probably a ton of metrics I'm not tracking that I should be. I mean, it's so, I run basically a one-man show here right now. Tracking everything is impossible. The big things I track, at least, obviously the financials, I use Zen Planner to manage everything, which I used when I had the CrossFit gyms. I just used it again because it's what I knew. But the big thing for me, when you open it up, there's always that dashboard is the first thing you see, and it kind of lists, everything you do that month, your growth. It shows you a little graph. So every single day, I'm probably on that thing at least 4 or 5 times, just really digging into the numbers. The biggest number for me is just that average client value over time. For me, I have a goal on what that should be. And, initially, we discount a lot of memberships just to get people in the door, and you kind of do, favors every now and then to get people in that, are influencers. But, the goal is to get that number to creep up. So that's a big number for me to track that. And then obviously all the random things like late bills and all of that, just to make sure everything's paid on time and you're getting all the money that you do. But yeah, financially and business wise, those are the big ones for me. Other than that, a lot of it's social media. It's just, Instagram is the main thing I use. I still haven't gotten into Snapchat. I'm very, very old now, so learning how to do Snapchat is just impossible for me. But I've been focusing a lot on Instagram, but like following those numbers is huge, and figuring out, when people are viewing the videos, what the best time to post those things is. So learning all of that on the go has been incredible. But those are the big numbers that we watch.
Okay. So where do you see Boost Lacrosse in 2 years? And then do you have a plan to get there, or milestones that you want to be hitting?
Yeah. I mean, membership wise, I'm hoping by the end of the year we're at 100. We're right about on target. We're about 50 now, and we're 6 months in. So, membership wise, I think we'll hit that. If I have to look a couple of years down the road, I definitely want to have this be more of a nationally known name. And I don't have no plans on expanding gyms and having more than one. I always want this to be the one facility, but down the road, I do want to start doing seminars where we travel around a lot, like Carl did with his gymnastics, travel around the different parts of the country and kind of teach, our program and teach the kids how to do the movements, focus them on certain movements, specific movements that will benefit them more than, others in the gym, but just teach them how to run this program on their own, and kind of what's behind it, so they can kind of run this on their own in their off season. So, those are the kind of the big views. I got to get my podcast going back in, again. I briefly started it, did one episode, and haven't gotten back to it since we opened. But I mean, it's I want to push more content. I want to create better content, but then just start getting out there outside of just New England and the Boston area for sure.
Cool. Do you use anything when you're producing content? Because I know you've done a lot in the past with your other gyms, but do you have a system to producing content, or do you kind of?
God, no. I do everything. So everything's just on the fly when I have time to squeeze it in. One thing that's been popular, we've been posting, and I don't even think it's the right word for them, but I've been posting vlogs on Instagram and on YouTube. Cool. They're just minute-long, basically edited videos off of my old school GoPro camera of just a day at the gym. And it's mainly just the workouts and the kids coming in. So we got a bunch of those on our Instagram account, and then a bunch on YouTube. But yeah, I have zero schedule, which I should put together. But at this point, it's just whatever time I have during the day, I'll try to just get something done to get up there.
And I think most fitness pros will completely understand that, right? Yeah. Being super busy and trying to find in the time for their marketing and things like that. If you had a message for, let's say, a fitness professional who maybe, is doing more general population now, but really has an urge to go sport specific or specifically get into some kind of niche, right? Do you have any advice for them to make that switch?
I think the biggest one is you gotta, whatever niche you're going to pick, you gotta love it. Like I naturally love lacrosse. I naturally love the sport. And I always have. So getting back into it, was very easy. Cause if you're going to focus on that niche, you're going to be living, eating, and breathing whatever that niche is. So for me, it's lacrosse, and I'm totally fine with it. I love it. So I think the more you love that niche, the better off you'll be. Cause you won't care about having to go to local games to promote your business, or go to camps, or, talk to kids that are going and playing in college. Versus just randomly picking field hockey, which I know nothing about and I could care less to go watch. So I think the more you love the niche you're picking, the better off you'll be, because you won't care about going and doing work. Yeah.
And I 100% agree with you, Sean, too, because now that what we get to do in the Fitness Marketing Alliance is just talk to fitness professionals. And I always found I could talk to fitness all day. Right.
Yep.
And nothing against anybody who's listening, who is a client at my gym, but the general population, I just wasn't excited to talk to people all the time or work with them all the time, and 9 years was a long time too. But I think loving the people that you're working with and loving the industry and all that, that's huge. That's hugely valuable advice, and I appreciate it. So if people want to find out more about what you're doing with Boost, and kind of check out and get some inspiration and ideas, where do they find you, Sean?
Online, boostlacrosse.com, which we're actually redoing the website now, so hopefully that'll be done soon. Boostlacrosse.com. We're on Instagram at boostlacrosse. Facebook, it's facebook.com/Boost Lacrosse. On YouTube at Boost Lac. So yeah, you can find us all on those.
Cool. Well, thank you, Sean. Sean's a great guy. I'm sure he'd be happy to help if anyone reached out to him, if they're looking to do something similar. And just keep up the great work, man. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot about Boost Lacrosse in the future.
I hope so. Thanks for having me, Eric.
My brother. See ya.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Future of Fitness podcast and webinar series. We're working really hard here to keep great content coming out, and we'd like to express our gratitude by offering you a free 7-day marketing crash course. So here's how you can claim it. If you go to fitnessmarketingalliance.com/free gift, FREEGIFT, and you enter the promo code FITMARK, FITMARK, you can claim it that way. The other way is you can text us. So you can text the phone number 805-619-5550, and you text the word FITMARK, FITMARK. So thank you. Keep listening. Go claim that offer. It's a ton of value. And if you ever want to get a hold of me, or if you have suggestions for guests, topics, or anything else, or if you just want to ask me questions, I always respond. You can reach me at Eric, ERIC, at fitnessmarketingalliance.com. And keep listening. We have a lot more coming down the pipe, and we'll make sure that we're keeping the value great for you guys. And farewell till next time.